So a lot of people saw my that saw my picture of the arnica, my arnica that is blowing up this year, and I'm so excited. They're like, "Oh, I've tried for so long." Trust me, I get it. I get it because I tried for years to get arnica. I was finally successful and ended up with like two or three little plants. I had planted a lot more than that, but that's the thing is whenever you're trying to grow something in an area that it's not climatized to, then it can be a little bit of a struggle. And sometimes, and I've shared some of this before, that there's certain things that if you can find an herb that grows really well for you in your climate, it's better to go ahead and go with that herb if it's going to have the same properties as this other herb that you really want to grow. Now, I really want to grow arnica, even though I already have comfrey that has a lot of the same benefits. I really also wanted to have arnica because, as I'd said before, arnica itself, when to buy the dried flowers, is one of the most expensive herbs I've seen. It is like horribly expensive, but I do know, at least for me, the two combined, the arnica and the comfrey, have really helped in several occasions now heal up broken toes and with sprains and more. And so it was really important for me to have arnica. So I wanted to keep trying. However, just remember that if it's not something that naturally grows in your area, maybe you'd be better off first looking to see if there's an herb that does something very similar or grows naturally or grows wild. But if, like me, when it came to the arnica and it came to the marshmallow, what was another one I struggled with for a few years, you're determined you're going to grow it and you want to keep trying. Here's the suggestions I'm going to make. This is all going to obviously depend on your hardiness. So hardiness that's where zones come in. It's good to know what your zone is, because if you're trying to find something that can handle how cold your winters get, that's the important thing. You want to make sure that whatever that plant is going to fall within that hardiness zone. I never even look at that because we're in such a moderate area that as far as that goes, as far as hardiness, we have such mild winters. It's just not, I don't have to worry about that. So I don't pay any attention to zone. But if you have very, very cold winters, very harsh winters, you will need to pay attention to that. And if it's not something that's going to last through a harsh winter, then I would say it's probably not worth growing unless you can grow it indoors or move it indoors every winter. Then maybe. So you got to work around what you have. Now, what's important to me when I'm looking at growing something is the overall climate, which a lot of people assume that zone means climate, and it does not. It does not, because you can have, there's people, and I always talk about Deep South Homestead when I say this, because I know where they live, they're actually in the same zone as me, but our climates are as opposite as they could possibly be. Opposite, very, very opposite. So I can't go by, oh, they're in the same zone as me and they're growing this, that should work for me. Nope. Nope. Believe me, I've tried. So sometimes too is finding a variety of the certain herb or vegetable or fruit that will grow in your area. But even then, it can be about going, okay, I'm going to make this work. So just like with the mullein, just like with the marshmallow and with the arnica, it's about starting things inside, especially if you live in a cooler climate. But even if you don't, I always recommend starting new herb seeds in particular in pots somewhere. If you have a pretty warm climate, you could probably do this outside, but I still recommend starting them in pots. This is going to do a couple of things. It's going to help you. You're going to be like, okay, I know this is in this pot. I know this is in this pot, et cetera, et cetera. So and you're starting with a good sterile soil so you don't have other things coming up that you could confuse this new herb with. So that's important to me. I want to have sterile soil. I don't use any soil out of my garden that could have lady's thumb seeds or something else, feverfew seeds, because my feverfew seeds go everywhere. My valerian seeds go everywhere. Valerian's another hard one. That's another hard one. It took me a few years to get that one going. But you got to just keep trying. And all you need to do is get one plant that will make it. But if you start it in a pot, like in cooler climates, definitely start it either inside or in a greenhouse. Give it time to get to at least this tall, at least about 5 to 6 inches tall, maybe less. And then move it outside. Again, if you're in a warmer climate, you wouldn't have to wait that long. You could just plant it outside in a pot and just watch it and keep it in that pot. I recommend keeping it in a pot through the whole season, through the whole next year. Don't put it in the ground right away. Keep it in the pot. That's what I did with the marshmallow. I was finally able to, that's what I do with most of them, is once they get to a certain height, I'll transplant them into a bigger pot somewhere where I can watch them. And I'll maybe have that outside and watch how well they do, and then leave them out there. I don't leave them inside. I don't leave them in the greenhouse. I leave them outside so they can go through the whole winter and see if they'll make it. If they make it, great. And they come back the next year. If they're something that doesn't flower until the second year, then if I can get it to get into that second year and get seeds from it, then those seeds are going to be acclimated to the area. So like with the marshmallow, as much as it took me several years to finally get some marshmallow to grow for me. And now just like with the arnica, just like with the valerian, those things come up all over the place now. I have marshmallow plants trying to come up in my strawberry pots. Even though it took a while to get some good acclimated seed. The mullein, that was the other thing. I started some mullein again with the seeds that I got from a friend, and I'll start some more this next year. Now that I know it's biennial, not perennial, so that I can always have some new mullein plants going in the ground. Because to me, it looks like the mullein here, even if the seeds fall, it's still best to start it inside, and any plant that makes it through that first year will flower in the second year, and then it will die. And so I want to be able to have that where I can keep rotating it. At any rate, once something is acclimated to your area, then you can keep taking the seeds from that plant and keep growing it. And if it's just like the valerian, that's another one. It's like, wow, as much as I struggled to get the valerian to grow, if the main struggle with that was getting it to germinate in the first place. And then once I finally got some plants, borage is the same way. I got borage coming up everywhere, just everywhere. I never have to plant it ever, ever, ever. And that's an annual. I never have to plant it. But the calendula, I have to save the seeds and plant again because of our climate. Even though it's climatized to this area, it just doesn't come back well from seed that falls. I have to start it at a certain time of the year, maybe even start it in the greenhouse. There's a few things like that I still have to do that with, but not everything. So it's some of it's just going to take experience and just practicing. And then the other thing I wanted to say that's really key to this is also when you do let's say you finally get a few arnica plants. And it's not even just about knowing how much sun that thing likes, whatever that plant is, because that's important. You need to know how much water, how much sun it likes. Like rosemary likes a lot of sun and not a lot of water. So it took me a long time to find just the right place to put my rosemary where it will just go ballistic. And that I found that one place. It did okay in the West Herb Garden under the eaves there. Much better in the south-facing little narrow strip of garden where it's getting a lot more sun and the protection from too much rain because it's up against the house. So with that in mind, you got to keep experimenting. So usually what I do when I have new plants that I'm trying, and I do get several successful starts, I will take those starts when I do put them in the ground. I will put them in different places around some in the back, some in the side, some in the front. And then you'll be able to see where it's going to like it best. And then you'll know, okay, this is a good spot. It's got the right soil conditions. It's got just the right amount of sun, just the right amount of protection from either too much sun or too much rain or too much cold and snow in the wintertime. You'll figure that out. It's going to take practice, because here's the deal. A lot of people think I have the answers to all of their gardening problems. I don't. I am not a master gardener. I never took a gardening course, at least from, something I had to pay for and get some certification. No, my gardening course is just been my own experiment. It's like, put some stuff in the ground and see what it does. Okay, well, that didn't work, but that did. And then, that didn't even germinate. So let me try again doing it this way indoors in a pot. So, that's why, again, especially with herbs, always start them inside, especially any kind of new herb. Or herbs that I know need that extra boost. Echinacea is another one that, it's perennial, but here it will not grow from seed that just falls to the ground. I have to start it indoors. Once I got a good established plant, it'll keep coming back every year. It's getting it established. It's getting it first to germinate, getting it to establish. Once it's established and well rooted, it'll keep coming back. So I was going to say about the valerian, like if you're trying to grow valerian, which by the way, I do sell valerian seeds. I sell mosa seeds, even though that will drop seed and I'll get little valerian plants coming up, and I just give them away to locals. Anyone who wants a valerian plant or a marshmallow plant, here, I got these plants coming up. Does anybody want any? The valerian, to get it started the first time, what I learned with that, and you might try this with other seeds that you've tried several times and it didn't do anything, is to score the seeds, which is tricky because valerian seeds, like a lot of your herb seeds, are very small. So, but what I do is I put the valerian seeds in my hand and just took some sandpaper and did the best I could to kind of sand them a little bit, really carefully, so that I was scoring them. And once I did that, I was finally able to get them to germinate. You could also try, I didn't try this with them, but you could also try the stratification thing by freezing any seeds. And I don't always do that. I almost always forget to do that, but stratification can also be a good way to get your seeds to come back. And that could be maybe why some seeds don't come back, is because we don't get harsh enough winters that the seeds would freeze and become stratified. But for whatever reason, I can save the seeds. I don't have to freeze them, and I can start them in the greenhouse, and or even just plant them later in the season directly into pots, and they'll grow. But if they fall to the ground and stand there, it's very rare I'll get calendula that will come up from seed that fell from the plant. You just learn these things as you go. It's really all about the what's the word? Experience. I kept trying to say experiment, but it's experimenting too. The experiment is part of the learning process. And the thing about that, this is the kind of learner I am. I learn best by doing anyway. That's why I don't want to pay for herbal courses. I don't want to pay for gardening courses. I'm not going to pay for courses that I'm going to sit through and go, what all they just say? My attention span when it comes to that kind of stuff is not great. I have too many different things that my mind will start rabbit trailing. I mean, you see how I talk. I do the same thing in my thoughts. And so it's hard for me to stay focused and then, have that information always be ready for me to just grasp when I need it. And I know it's in there somewhere. It's finding it. When I do the thing, though, and I try the thing and I come up with my own ideas, I'm like, well, I'm going to try this. I've never heard of anyone doing this, but since I see how this and that does, let me try to see if this will work for this thing. And I try it. And when it works, When it fails, I'm going to remember that didn't work. When it works, I'm going to remember that worked. But it doesn't mean you can't also keep trying something new. Oh, I know one of the things I was going to say is some people say that they have such a hard time starting certain mints from seed. Now, I thought I was going to have a hard time starting horehound from seed because it's in the mint family. And mints a lot of times can be hard to start from seed. Apparently not my lemon balm. And if that's the case, if you keep trying and you just can't get the seeds to germinate, then I recommend going ahead and getting yourself some starts. I mean, when it came to my lavender, though I have successfully grown lavender from seed from my own plants. Oh, no, it was from seed I bought. The lavender that did best for me were the ones that I bought as starts. And then they've just done beautifully. I did pull up some older plants over here though that weren't coming back so well this year, and I'm going to put some new starts in there. But sometimes it doesn't cost. It costs about as much for a start as it does for a pack of seed. Now, the nice thing about a pack of seed is if they're all going to germinate, you can have quite a few plants. But if none of them germinate, you don't have any plants. Or you can go down and you can buy a rosemary. I mean, that's how I got all this peppermint around here from one peppermint plant I bought, a start. Same thing with the orange mint, the lemon balm, the mojito mint. I got that all over the place, and one plant. And all the rosemaries were starts that I bought. So you can get starts, even if they're not labeled organic. It would be the GMO thing I'd worry about more. I would say just grow it for a few years. If you're concerned about it not being organic, grow it for a few years in organic soil. It's going to be organic. Okay. Maybe not even, it probably wouldn't even take a few years. You just might not want to harvest anything off it in the first year. So, and it might be too small anyway. I usually, when I have starts, especially when I buy them, I never harvest anything off of them in the first year, whether they be organic or not, because I want this plant to get established, and I don't want to do anything that could be detrimental to its growth and its ability to come back the next year, or to give me seed so I can plant it again. So a variety of places, making sure they have protection from either too much sun or too much cold or too much rain, depending on your climate. And try starting, if some of these things people are struggling with, they think they should just be able to direct seed them and they're doing good, try starting in pots indoors if it's not working that way. Because I tell you, a lot of the things I've tried to, my first year trying all these different herbs, I was direct seeding a whole bunch of stuff. Hardly anything grew when I did that. When it came to herbs, when it came to things like snow peas, well, yeah, of course, potatoes, Jerusalem artichokes, beans even. Beans are great. You just don't want to plant them too early around here or they'll drown. But yeah, so a lot of times just getting a good start. And I have this, I keep forgetting what it's like, a lemon bee balm. Is that what it is? Anyway, it's a variety of bee balm that I got from Azure Standard. I've got it in a pot. I haven't decided where I want to put it yet, because I want to see how it grows in the pot. So I took it from the small pot it came in and stuck it in a bigger pot, and it's sitting on my deck. And I do look up, it's like, okay, does it need more sun, less sun? And it seems to want a little more sun. So I have it in an area where it's going to get more sun, and it's just growing like crazy. And so I know I've tried to grow bee balm before, and I had little starts. I think I might have started them aside. I think I planted them out too soon. They all died. I wonder if my lavender died because of the heat. It might be. You're probably starting to run out of shady areas, just like we run out of sunny areas for things that like sun. You might try growing it in maybe an area that gets just a little bit of sun. So it can get some sun, but not a whole lot of direct sun. This is the West Herb Garden over here is a good one for that because of the apple trees. And because it's on the west side of the house, it's a good place to grow things that kind of like that nice balance. of sun, where they don't like the all day hot sun, but they still like to get some direct sunlight, especially later in the day. I've got a couple of horseradish plants over here. They do get some late afternoon direct sun, but those are the biggest ones, the biggest, healthiest ones I have. And the ones that get more sun don't seem to do as good.